Just turn on the microphones.
Okay, calling the March 13th Long Hill Township Board of Education meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, adequate notice of this meeting of the Long Hill Township Board of Education was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was sent to the Echo Sentinel and Daily Record on September 15th, 2022. Revised notice was sent to the Echo Sentinel and Daily Record on February 14th, 2023. Notices were posted on the bulletin board in the first floor entrance of the School District Administration Building, Gillette, New Jersey. Notices were filed with the Township Clerk. And notices were mailed to all persons who have requested individual notice pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler,
Here.
Mr. DeJamos, Mrs. Daly,
Here.
Mr. DeGiorgio, Mr. Grosskopf,
Here.
Mrs. McLennan,
Here.
Ms. Nyquist,
Here.
Ms. Rivolo, Mrs. Case.
Here.
6 members present.
Thank you. Any communications? I do not have any.
I do not have any.
Thank you. Board, committee, and liaison reports. Let's start with Karen.
Last week, I attended a virtual meeting of the Morris County Ed Services Commission. We approved the budget. I think I mentioned several times that they do not get any state aid, nor do they get any, revenue from property taxes. So whatever their budget is put together based upon their estimate of revenues in the future. We also, were discussing things such as what is going to happen coming next year. They will be losing 7 students, so the enrollment is going to go down below 30. They're going to have to reduce staff by 1. So the question has come up now as to, and it's going to be discussed in the future, as to whether they're going to continue the school or what they're going to do. Excuse me. I also participated prior to the meeting in a negotiation meeting, and it was really interesting because the previous contract took 5 years to come to resolution. This one took 45 minutes. So they're just working on the salary guides now. I can't say anything about it, but it's been approved and it's out for their representatives to review. We didn't have a governance meeting last month. We will be having one this coming Wednesday. And the other part is we completed round 2 of candidates for the superintendent position. And on, the 9th of the month, I notified individuals that were going to be moving on to the next round and those that were not. So it is the goal, and I think it's one very achievable, that we will have a resolution on the April agenda for approval of our next superintendent. So we're moving into, like I said, round 3. That'll be it.
Thank you. Any questions for Karen? Okay.
Oh, I just want one thing.
Yes.
With respect to governance, just something that I had brought up before. Hopefully you'll get a copy of the governance agenda, and it's following. It's utilizing the form that was proposed, and if we could just try it, let's see if it works and does what we want it to do, rather than, and then everybody has the same kind of format. So you put the strategic goal, you put your yearly goals, you put your items to the agenda and everything, and you use the exact same form for minutes, and hopefully with that structure, it'll be easier for everybody in reporting, and, people who would get to read it, which we're all going to discuss about it those things being publicized. So if you could just try to do that, I would appreciate it. That'd be great.
Okay. Nope. Okay, Danielle?
Yes, so I have from the PTO an update. So the Harlem Wizards vs. Long Hill Masterminds fundraising event on March 6th went splendid. It was packed, it was sold out, it was a tremendous success. Some of the upcoming events that are being put on by the PTO, one included today, which was the Tanglewood Marionettes visited the 4th graders for a marionette workshop, and they will return tomorrow for a marionette performance for all Millington School grades. And then on March 23rd, Animal Champions Assemblies will be held for all grades at Gillette School. And then on April 14th, they're having Mother Nature Kids Interactive Theater Show for all grades at the Gillette School. The next PTO general meeting will be held on April 12th at 7 p.m. in the Millington Media Center. And finally, the PTO did sponsor the WHRHS Sending District Band Camp. It will be held from June 26th to July 20th, so save the dates and registration will be opening soon. And then as far as for policy, I'm gonna read, since Melissa's not here, so I'm just gonna read what we did in policy. It was myself, Melissa Ruvolo, Dr. Renee Rovitar. We were present at the last meeting. We went over the policy 6154 homework. This policy was revised to account for the revision of the accompanying regulation. Specifically, the maximum amount of homework for elementary school students was reduced from 30 to 60 minutes on any given night to a maximum of 20 to 45 minutes on any given night. For middle school, the maximum amount of homework was changed from 60 to 90 minutes to a maximum of 45 to 60 minutes on any given night. Policy 1120, which was Board of Ed meetings. This policy was revised to incorporate a reference to the Board of Ed Policy 9325 regarding Board of Ed meeting procedures. We also went over Policy 1200, which was participation by the public. Our current version of this policy was completely replaced by the version that is currently proposed on the NJSBA website. The current policy specifically delineates the types of volunteer opportunities to take part in school affairs. It also limits volunteer opportunities for Board of Ed members. The new draft of the policy focuses more on the members of the public who may be invited to act as advisors. It also eliminates the restriction on Board of Ed members serving as volunteers in school affairs. We also went over policy 2130, which was principal evaluations. This policy was revised to remove any reference to Dean of Students, as we no longer use that title within our administration. And then we went over, then we went over regulations, let me see here, hold on, sorry. I think that's it. And the next policy meeting will be held on March 16th at 11 a.m.
Very good. Any questions for Danielle? Okay. Yeah.
The Student Achievement and Curriculum Committee met on February 22nd. Within the meeting, we discussed staffing for no year, particularly that we're holding at the same level of staffing this year as we are in next year's budget. We discussed the Summer Institute. Ms. Backer and Dr. Jones will be reviewing the criteria from the Linkit in-house benchmark testing in grades 4 and 5, and the Fontes and Pinnell reading scores and math scores for grades K through 3, and making determinations regarding those recommendations. They plan on doing an invitational letter and also a Zoom webinar for parents who have questions. We discussed the mandated health standards that had been discussed earlier in the year. Basically, that there's been no change in the district's approach to the standards, as we had discussed earlier in the year with the Coffee House with Dr. Mucci. We spoke about Readsters, which is like a professional development consultation program by Linda Farrell and Michael Hunter, who are experts in the methods of Louisa Moats, who is a national authority on how children learn to read. And select staff have been working with these two experts with Readsters to learn more, like the most effective teaching strategies to help students to learn to read, and then bringing that back into the schools. Items for our next meeting, which is March 29th. Among other things, we will be looking at the 2023-24 school calendar for next year. A change was made for this year in the way the district scheduled and organized parent-teacher conferences. The committee will be looking at the data regarding this change and discussing the change and then possible new approaches for next year. For the finance, which I have, for Matt, possibly a bit briefer than Matt's, but Dan will be filling in on details. We met on March 7th. We went over the 2023-2024 budget in really great detail. We went over the capital improvement projects that are planned for the district. We reviewed the bills for the month the following day, because many of us were in Zoom, so we went in person the next day. We did the 2023-24 transportation agreements, the 2023-24 subscription busing rates. They are remaining consistent with this year's pricing, so $900 per child, a maximum of $2,000 per family for the subscription busing rates. We discussed the preschool rates for next year's school year as well, and we're at $950 per month for the preschool, which is also maintaining the current pricing that we have this year. And in regards to the pay-to-play, we're able to reduce the current pricing, so it will be $100 per student per season, or $300 per the student total cost per year. I forgot to say, and it was an important point, but I had it up to the side here, the state numbers had come in and were positive. So that gave us a little bit of room in the budget, I think, to look at a few things that were on the wish list of change. And Dan will have full details for us.
Very good. Any questions for Ann? Okay, thank you. Tom?
Thank you. For the Technology Committee meeting, we met on March the 2nd, and you all received your meeting minutes today, sorry. I'll go over the notes real quickly. Nate and Jack were both in. Jack was here, right? Is that an apparition?
Yeah,
Never mind.
no, he was here.
Okay. They provided us with updates. Servers have been updated. This has not happened in 8 years or more. Firewalls have been updated for all computers, which is now shutting down the potential for ransomware. Zoom costs have been cut in half by reassessing current post-COVID, love to say that, need. Software has been updated to limit the viewing of information, of basic data users, information that was open to all of the users in the system. Now it's only the IT, but the system that could be seen was just the name and what they could access. Nothing more than that. No social security, no date of birth, nothing like that. And now only the IT department can see who's able to look into what system. 9 smart boards have been replaced. The previous boards were 10 years old. From what I understand, smart boards kind of are smart. They control things. Don't ask me more than that. There's a current effort to replace 150 failing desktops. They're running on old generation software. And older computers, other older computers, are being reduced and phased out. 100 Chromebooks have been replaced, which is great because there's another number coming up on that. The department is actively managing its vendors for reductions in system fees and number of subscriptions, consolidation, and getting the right subscriptions. And the department has created a 5-year life cycle planning strategy. This is meant to clear the backlog of upgrading and removing older technology, including older Chromebooks. Being replaced over 3 years is 931 Chromebooks, so that's an effort. Replacing things like replacing projectors with new technology such as TV screens. So rather than the old projector you might remember, or if any of you remember even further back, puppet shows. And it'll have TV screens for that. And installing new firewalls at all buildings, that's netting a $21,000 savings. Replacing the old phone line service because it's illegal to run the schools without a direct line, but now we're going to have it via internet/cell service, and that's going to help everything. It's been decided that the Technology Committee will meet quarterly, and our next meeting date is May the 4th. May
Good.
the 4th be with you.
I'll
Any
keep dressing my Jedi.
questions? I was like surprised at how many desktops we still have. Where do we have 115 or whatever desktops?
Don't go back into the technology office. And if you do, you better wear a mask.
But why we wouldn't replace those, right? So where are like ones that we need? Like this is in classrooms. We have 115 of them.
150.
50. I'm sorry.
your hand up.
Even more.
Well, I was going to offer some insight.
Yeah.
In the north back portion of Central, there's a room that we're looking at doing, I think it's the ground floor, a room where we're looking at making improvements and making it more student useful space. But in a storage room back there, there's dozens,
Right.
at least, of unused computer hardware. And really, there's a limited life cycle to a lot of the stuff. And what was once purchased for necessary computing desktops has been replaced by Chromebooks. So like, what do you do with all this stuff when it's kind of obsolete? So I'm not surprised by that number, having seen this kind of storage room where there's technology.
So we're gonna get rid of these, we're not replacing them with new desktops?
This is not a unique issue with this school district, from what I understand.
yeah.
Companies have this problem. It's just, after 7, 8 years of.
Right, we're
right?
starting to
We're getting rid
purge
of
and
them.
clean up.
For the most part.
Okay,
There'll
got
be
it.
some to be need, and
No,
they'll
they've
be
actually been
phased out.
replaced already, that's why they're in this room, that they
Got it,
just
got
haven't
it.
gotten them,
Okay.
put somewhere else. Just, not destroyed or whatever they have to do.
Decommissioned.
I
Thank
should
you. Yes.
probably talk to you
Retired.
about this offline. However, I'll just mention that, there's been some donations to the district through, Long Hill Education Foundation, and is that going to be included in your life cycle, or is that something that?
Well, I think we had spoken, and we're trying to eliminate that portion of it, of funding technology. That should fall on the scales.
Okay,
It
so
should fall on
that's
our,
gonna-
yes,
okay,
we
so-
discussed that last year.
Can I slow clap that?
So that should be more on our side. This should be for peripherals that are unique, that we would need, that's considered extra and above as opposed to a standard.
Okay, I just thought I would.
We don't want
Yes.
to make that mistake
Are we
again.
gonna get a chance to see the 5-year plan?
They have it, but it's not ready for most eyes. In fact, I don't think you saw it, did you?
I saw it when I was on the call. I made it to the call late, but I saw it, but I don't think it was
I think it's a
circulated.
truncated version, because
Okay.
there's information, I saw an earlier version, and there's information on there that the IT department said is probably best not being out in the public, because it would give hackers a better way to know how to get in.
I'm not looking for more than just numbers of what, when.
We have.
I
we
think
can
some of
find-
that's actually in the budget document in terms of
Correct.
what
You'll
we
see it all.
anticipate,
Yes.
and
Okay.
this year would probably be a model for the following years, to split it up so that we do not have to replace a large number in any one given year.
Right, correct.
Okay.
So when you get it, probably tomorrow or Wednesday, it's like page 3, you'll go and you'll see hardware, software, and purchase services, and it'll be detailed of everything that we're purchasing that's in that cost center. So you'll see it clearly.
Super.
Okay.
That's the technology committee, and as for being the liaison to the planning board, I would like to say that Mr. Sandow is in the audience, and I'm sure he could do a better job doing that than I could. Thank you, Mr. Sandow.
Okey dokey. Alex?
Thank you, Chair. The Building and Grounds Committee met on March 3rd. It was a Zoom meeting. Dr. Rotar was there. Matt DiGiorgio, Katie, and I were in attendance on behalf of the board. Mark Persina and Adele Valentin participated from the administration side. We briefly discussed and have a working draft of our 3 committee goals, which I will encapsulate as working with the Finance Committee to ensure enough funds are available to complete custodial maintenance and other grounds projects. That's 1. Developing a basic infrastructure evaluation tool to track preventative maintenance projects and identify facilities needs and useful life for short-term and long-term capital project planning. And 3rd is to try to focus more on the on the educators' insights for improving instructional space, which is kind of like our new mantra for the next wave of things, is to try to make sure that we have improvements being done to education spaces. As far as the capital projects and facilities maintenance updates provided by Mr. Persina, there was a lot of interest on the Gillette sign, and I got the backstory on that, which is essentially that a large crate was found in the storage room containing the sign. It was placed on a temporary stand. The stand was intended to be temporary so that we could find the right placement for it. There's already a conduit with electrical that runs to the area, but before it becomes permanent, some person, not Mr. Persina, is gonna make a decision as to who and where and that is gonna be located.
Correct.
He I pressed him as to who the decision maker was, and he said, not me. But I know that there was a lot of feedback I got from my fellow board members related to the sign, which is, I assure you, intended to be temporary. And, you know, once that decision is made, it's gonna be notified to the town, and we'll get whatever application done, and then it'll be more permanent.
The application's already at the.
Oh, it's already there?
Yes.
So, this is dated news. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, we're just waiting to get the final.
I know, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody's concerns were heard. We didn't, what was out there was not intended to be the final thing. There were some improvements made to, or some repairs made to, HVAC, specifically at the Millington copy room, which didn't previously have heat. There was a new heating coil put in there. There were plumbing repairs done to a clogged crawl space interior sanitary sewer line at Millington. I think I got that right.
Correct.
Preventative HVAC maintenance is planned at Central to replace and flush out the glycol loop system to maintain the air cooling system at Central. I asked whether that had to be done at the other two schools, and that system is not used at the other two schools.
correct.
It's only at Central. We continue to do indoor air quality monitoring, but there was no deficiencies recently reported. The fire suppression system tests were completed. This is a annual or semi-annual fire suppression system test to the sprinkler systems and other such systems. And we believe that one of them, I think in Millington, is gonna be redone because Mark wasn't around when the guy did the test, so he's gonna redo it. Tree pruning is being planned for the next season. I think in early April it's being planned for. They continue to do some work on the lock repairs with a locksmith. 2 additional swipe card entries are going to be installed, one at Gillette, one at Millington. Building relighting project is now he had such a great expression for it, not the bane of his existence, but something along those lines, where it's 93 or 4% done, but it's not fully there yet,
Correct.
and we're still working with the
Vendor.
vendor to correct some things. So this is where my notes get a little fuzzy, but the administration asked for help with the sound system in anticipation of some theatrical production at Central School. And some items are gonna be repaired, because, we're trying to enhance the experience for our theatrical performers. Nothing's particularly wrong, but just a couple things needed to be adjusted here and there. Nothing on the integrated pest management. Playground equipment or the swing mats have finally been installed in the playgrounds, and the work begins at the baseball softball field at Central. Way to go, Southpaw Borgo, which I heard. I heard Dan used to be a great lefty pitcher at some point, so thank you for that attention.
They're there now.
There will, I don't want to get anyone too excited, but we're looking at replacing the monkey bars at the Gillette playground, and we'll certainly get end user input before that happens. And there is one classroom in Gillette that's going to serve as the showcase for future improvements to the cabinetry replacement. That should be done during spring break, and we'll use that as a model. We're continuing to do work with the 5-year capital improvement plan, and that has a lot to do with the ROD grant stuff, and I think that Dan's working on, and I think I've exhausted my time. So thank you very much. We did very well with the insurance survey inspections. That's it. Thank you all.
Okay, any questions?
Just a comment. I think anyone in our town needs to know that if you go to one of these buildings and grounds committee meetings, the attention to detail and the concern for getting the most bang for our buck in terms of taxpayer dollars, it's being well spent with Mr. Pristino. And he's so concerned with safety, and he wants to double check and make sure everything is done correctly and that our money is being appropriately used. So it's really remarkable to see, and I'm really impressed with him every time I'm in a meeting with him.
Thank you
Is
for
it-
that comment, yeah.
Katie, this is your first year on Buildings and Grounds?
I was on it several years ago.
Okay, so
But to
you
come back and to see the difference, it's impressive and very heartening.
I know that traditionally, like, policy has been year one for a board member, a bit of a hazing ritual, but I think Buildings and Grounds is just so important for people to sit on. You just learn so much about what's going on. So thank you for that. How did you guys pick the lucky winner at Gillette to be the showcase for the cabinetry?
It's the last classroom on the left as you enter the stairwell in the back, and that's probably the worst.
Isn't
The
it,
one of the original kindergarten rooms.
One of the
is that
original-
Mrs. Clark's room? I think, well,
It's the
if it was the
first-
last one on the
Yeah.
left.
It's the last
Yeah.
one, yes,
Yeah.
last one on the left has windows facing the courtyard. and
Yes,
up to the
Yes.
back.
okay.
Yeah.
So it was the saddest room.
Oh, yeah.
Used to be
I don't know, I get warm waves of nostalgia every time I'm in there because it's a mirror image of the kindergarten room that I had, so.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Thank you
Katie.
for tolerating.
But
No,
it
thank
needs the
you.
improvements, I can't argue.
Yeah.
Katie.
In terms of the Community Relations Committee, the minutes came out very late today. Your fearless chair was very sick the month of February. We met on February 7th. It was myself, Dr. Rovtar, Tom Groskopf, Karen Nyquist, and Jack Hartnett. At that meeting, we were going to discuss the new goals and we were going to bring them to our next meeting. Again, we're gonna review the website every time, every month because it's constantly changing, and kind of spoke with Jack about how we would get that to him. And then we, as we always do, we discussed, how things are going into the papers and, what publicity is going out there. And we also discussed who's responsible for which part of the social media. And in our upcoming meeting, we're gonna choose dates, our goals, and that date is to be determined because I just haven't had it done yet. So I apologize to everyone, and hopefully we get back on track soon. As for the Ed Foundation, I guess the first bit of news is that I am the acting president, as our president, Beth Conlin, is about to give birth to her fourth child, and she obviously needs a little time to get everything under control there, although I have every faith she'll be back in no time. We have just released the application for the spring grants, so that is out to the district. It went out on Monday, I believe, and or Friday actually, I think. And that will be the grant period for applications from all district staff and faculty will be April 1st will be the cutoff date, and then hopefully by our May meeting we will the board will approve those the grant app, what has been granted to the district. And then our spring force has been up and running. We have a lot of new classes. It's probably one of the biggest we've ever had. And what's really exciting is, by and large, in the beginning it used to be mostly outside vendors, and now the vast majority of our teachers are are employees of the district, which is really great to see because it keeps the cost down for families, and the classes are great. And the only other thing is that we are not having a spring fundraiser, but we will be having a back to school supplies fundraiser. So, keep an eye out. That to sign up for it will happen in the next couple of months, and a lot of parents will have to do the running around in July and August to get school supplies. So I don't know about anyone else, but I'm thrilled because that is my least favorite thing to do. So that is it. Thank you very much.
Okay, any questions for Katie?
Oh, and there's news about the robotics team, but I'm gonna leave that to Dr. Rovtar because I think you have more details than me.
Okay.
The only thing I'll report is I attended the Morris County School Board Association President and Vice President meeting. I'm gonna bring Ann in on the next one. I think that was helpful. There was a little bit of, commiserating with one another about some of the things going on, but a lot of energy there too. And that's one of my first exposures, I think, to other districts. So it was nice to get together for that. And I just want to thank Karen, Ann, and Katie again for all of their service on the Superintendent Search Committee. it's a lot of extra work, and people are really putting their hearts in it. So I appreciate that. All the interviews that we've done, we've got a lot of great candidates, and it's been a nice process, and we're looking forward to moving on to the next step. Interim superintendent's report.
Okay, as Ms. McLennan mentioned, we've had a very successful season for our robotics team. Our Millington school team and our 2 central school teams have all qualified for Worlds that will be taking place in Dallas, Texas. At the end of April, beginning of May, the timing is just couple days off for the younger students versus the older students. So we are currently working on those logistics, but we're very, very proud of the students. They performed extremely well. I had the pleasure of attending the Newsies Junior performance Friday evening, delightful. The students were terrific, so congratulations to all of the cast members, the crew, and their advisors for the many, many hours that they worked to prepare that performance. It was very nice. And I know Ms. Daly mentioned the PTO's marionette workshop for the 4th graders. Today I had the opportunity to go over and observe a little bit. Absolutely amazing that these students within literally minutes were able, working in pairs, to learn how to manipulate a marionette to the point that they had them waving their hand and walking and having the marionette lie down, and fascinating. So what a great experience for our 4th graders. And then tomorrow, as you indicated, there will be a performance. These are very talented puppeteers that just have an affinity for working with students. They really were great teachers, which is not always the case with artists. Sometimes they can't take it down to that level, but this was wonderful. So thank you very much to the PTO for sponsoring that opportunity. I did want to note on the agenda, one of the policies that we have listed, 6171.31, which is up for a second reading tonight. There's a little bit of editing thanks to Adele Valentine in our business office. There are some references in there to NCLB, the No Child Left Behind Act, which in 2015 was replaced by the Every Student Succeeds Act. So it's not a substantive change to the policy, but we will be making that editorial change, as you adopt the policy on its second reading. But just full disclosure. I did want to talk about snow. We have not had a lot of snow, or the snow that we've had has not come at helpful times if you really enjoy having snow days. So we have 5 snow days built into the current school calendar. At this point, we have used 0, and according to the agreement that we have with the Long Hill Education Association, those unused days need to be returned. So I do have a memo that will be going out to the school community tomorrow to indicate that our plan, subject to change if snow arrives, but we would close school on the following days. April 10th, which is Easter Monday. It's the day we would be extending our spring break by 1 additional day. May 26th and May 30th, which is the Friday and Tuesday, which surround Memorial Day. 2 days. And then for the last 2 days, we would look to take those off the end of the school year. Currently, we are slated to have June 16th be our last day of school. That would then become June 14th, and our Central Middle School promotion activity would be held the evening of June 13th. So that would be the night before the last day of school. Again, if snow arrives and we end up having to use a snow day, the last days that we would worry about would be those days in June. But that will all be reflected in the memo that I will send out to the school community tomorrow. And finally, I just wanted to comment briefly on a resolution that I'm very excited about on the agenda, and that is the nomination of Karen Nyquist for the Irene LaFay Excellence in Boardmanship Award. And I've worked with Karen for a number of years, and I think she is truly deserving of this recognition. So I'm very excited to have this included on the agenda, and I am assuming that it will be approved by the board, and it would be my pleasure to submit the paperwork to the Morris County School Boards Association following your approval. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, I'll also add, I saw Uzzi's Junior, Ann's daughter was in it. It was very good. My whole family enjoyed it, so that was very exciting. Interim Business Administrators Report.
Okay. I'd just like to give a little more detail on our finance meeting. Prior to that meeting, I met with Tom Groskopf. We spent a couple hours together with our business office and went through the budget and the nuances of our budget. Great time, healthy discussion, and I look forward to, we did it last year also, so it's a nice tradition that we started.
You'll be here next year for it too? You promise?
Just talking about our 23-24 budget, we received 140,416 increase in state aid. Our local tax levy appears to remain consistent at the 2%. As one of our goals of looking at other sources of revenue, we're hopefully going to have an autistic classroom open up in which we could bring in autistic students from other districts to offset some of those costs. Another thing, and it's nothing that we've done in the business office except invest, is that our interest, which we were getting less than $5,000 a year, with the increase in interest rates, we should be able to generate between probably $75,000 and $125,000 of interest income over a school year. So it's really aggressive investing by our office, and that's just added revenue that balances our budget to afford us some other nice things that we're doing in our budget. As stated, we last year we had our pay-to-play at $200 per season per child. Now we're cutting that in half to $100 per season per child. Was a max of $600, will now be a max of $300. So we're gradually trying to take that expense that was on the parent side and slowly but surely get it back onto the school district side, where it belongs. On the revenue side of our budget, I mean, our revenues are pretty consistent. Looking onto the expense side, thanks to our long-range facility plan and capital and on facilities, we have now a document moving forward that we know where we're going, what we're doing. The same thing in technology, know where we are, what we're doing. So we have documents in place moving forward that'll help tremendously in the budget process. And, you know, as we stated, 82 to 85% of our budget is salary and benefits. So that extra 15 to 18% has to be spent wisely. Textbooks, capital outlay, HVAC. So we have plans moving forward to fit into that, 15 to 18%, which is a really, really good thing. Our detailed budget, which we'll be sending out to the entire board probably tomorrow, is going to show you where all those expenditures are. And that's the third piece of this little triangle to really put Long Hill where it needs to be moving forward. So now you have a detailed budget, you have a facilities plan that you know what you're going to be spending, you have a technology plan to know where you're going. So that's a lot of where we're going. Put that in with the personnel, and now you have, your budget. And I mean, that's what affords us to get done so quickly and get done so efficiently. So there's really no surprises unless 77 kids move into the district. We have everything else really accounted for. Athletic stipends have been noted. We have now implemented a 6-year uniform replacement program, never been done before. They're going to get filtered in. We just ordered new basketball uniforms for boys and girls for next season. The lead time is quite long, so we're trying to put in best practices. Once the season's over, let's order them, so we have them by the end of the school year, and we can roll them out next season. And we want to do male, female at the same time, so we have no Title IX issues. So when it comes time for soccer, boys and girls, softball, baseball at the same time. So we're going to be moving those uniforms in. As stated prior, we're going to be doing all of our fields. We're also going to look at all of our garbage cans, all of our benches, all of our backstops to make sure the pegs and the bases are properly set. So when you come to look at our fields, the same way you walk into the gym is going to say the same wow factor you're going to get when you go to a ball field. So we're excited about that. That is all in the budget. It's just timing differences because technically the budget starts July 1st, so we're trying to get a little of this stuff done prior because I don't want to miss this season, to be quite honest with you. So that is in fact our goal. Salary and benefits, other personnel. Enrollment has been flat, and otherwise, as we stated in finance, it's a good budget. Moving forward, it's something that you could really look at and say, wow, you know, people took time doing that. And again, great staff, great team. With the board's support, it makes it much easier. You know, we're not going and, you know, we're looking at big picture where we're moving. We're not worried about, you know, whether we're getting 3 textbooks or 5 textbooks. There's much bigger things and much better way to use our time, and that's what we're really focusing on. Again, Mr. Prasina, Nate Finch, and Jack in technology, you know, it's a great advantage having all of your colleagues that close to you every day. I mean, Mark sits in my office. Nate and Jack are 5 seconds away. Dr. Rovtar's right across the hall, and that environment just bodes for good communications and great teamwork. So we're proud of that. So next Monday, we'll approve our tentative budget, which is still a working document. It's similar to the first reading of a policy. Anything could be changed until our public hearing, which would be that first week in May. And prior to our first week in May, we'll have our little podcast again. We'll put up all of our slides. That's all late April. For next meeting, we'll have some documents that you'll have. We'll talk about the tax rate, items like that, and we'll approve a tentative budget, work on it, evaluate it for the next 4 to 6 weeks, and then present a final budget in early May. So that would take care of all of our budget items. As for tonight's agenda, we have a lot of general housekeeping. We have our financial reports for the month of January. We have our ROD grant applications through Peretz Samjin. Again, the state being the state, you have to pay $3,500 in application fees to submit to the state for the possibility of getting a ROD grant that would pay you net maybe 31, 32% on every project you've done. So we have identified our projects. We have our grants in the pipeline, so to speak. So if in the future we do get funded, then we'll run it through our capital outlay projects, of which we have to document that we're funding it at 100%, and then after we spend it, we would get reimbursed back for that portion of 31 or 32% on that project. So that's a good thing, and it's for upgrades and replacements at Gillette School, HVAC repairs at Millington, Central, and it's a lot of the unit ventilators. It's the classroom air conditioning, heating component that you'd see in a lot of businesses that we are going to look to flip out and start taking one by one, and they're expensive, very, very, very expensive. We also have our transportation contracts, as we stated, with Sussex County Co-op. It's a co-op that does some group bidding with special ed. We're looking to do extracurricular and field trips to bid everything out so we know what we're paying, which is a good thing. We're really on the front end of that. We currently have our fire alarm bid out currently, and the bathrooms at Central out for bid, so that's a great thing. Hopefully we're first to the market, get a premier vendor and a good price, because everyone wants to tie up their summers. Preschool program, as we said, the same rate. Subscription busing, the same rate. Resolution 16, disposal of some desktop barriers, since we use federal funds to do this. We're keeping some that are nice, clean, not damaged. Those others have to have a formal board resolution, since it was not our taxpayer money. So that's why we have resolution number 16 on our agenda. And just again, congratulations, Karen, on your nomination. couldn't happen to a better board member. And again, thank you for all your support throughout the year. That makes this whole experience pleasurable.
If I could just ask, one of the things that you had mentioned about, like, if we get 77 students, we talked about it before, our demographic study is kind of outdated. Where would, what committee, would the Buildings and Grounds be the one? Where would we talk about redoing our demographic study?
I think we've been in
Finance?
contact with Tim Stiles up at Watchung Hills to maybe do a group, because whatever we do is going to affect the regional. So we were trying to get together with Watchung, ourselves, and all the schools filtering in to maybe do one large one and prorate it accordingly, similar to transportation. So we're working on that now. Because if we do it as a island, it has an adverse effect going through our district. So we're looking collectively to do a new demographic study.
Who does like, what organization does that study?
There's like, I know of White House Associates, there's school demographers out there.
Because the last one, I remember I had just moved here when I looked at it, and I was like, everyone that's moving in here has children, and they were like, we're not getting any more kids, and I was like,
Sometimes
So-
I question the validity and how
Yeah.
accurate they actually
so
are.
I'm cynical.
Yes, I don't disagree with you.
But in keeping with that topic, do we know our kindergarten registration numbers?
We
Ish.
do, I
Yeah.
don't have it with
Right.
me, but it's pretty much in line with what we have this year.
Okay.
Right,
Very, very similar numbers.
right. And then we'll get the add-ons between now and the start of the year.
Right,
Yep.
so, I mean, the net is, we don't anticipate any change in personnel, either
Okay.
plus or minus in terms of the number of sections that we have for kindergarten.
Okay. Okay. Anything else for Dan? Okay, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Comments from the public on agenda items? Okay, at this point, the Board of Education welcomes comments from any member of the public on agenda items only. Please note that as per Board Policy Number 1120, a total of 15 minutes is allocated for public comments at any single board meeting. In order to provide residents the opportunity to comment, individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each at any particular board meeting. The board may extend these time limits at its discretion. Any questions should be directed to the board president, and depending upon the nature and complexity of the question, it may or may not be answered during the meeting by the administration. If so, the response would occur after this public portion of the meeting has concluded. Everyone has the freedom to speak, but please be advised that anything said in public may have legal ramifications, and there is no protection regarding statements made by the public. Please state your name and address before you begin. It's on.
I think it's on.
Okay.
No red light?
I think it's on, Dennis.
It did bing before.
Oh, I heard it.
The one on the desk is probably on, if you wanna.
Do you want to? Or just,
Just about.
all right, make sure the other, good job. Thank you, Dan.
I am questioning resolution number 39, which speaks about a facilities use agreement between the Homeowner Board of Ed and the County of Township Morris. I did not see anything in the attachments that explains what that's all about. And I'm just curious to know what that agreement is all about and how much money it brings us. Thank you.
I can respond to that if you would like me to.
Okay.
That is an agreement that a number of districts within Morris County are approving. It is no cost. It is to allow the district, should there be an event where we would need to remove staff and students from one of our buildings, to have a reunification with parents off-site. The county college is allowing us to use their facilities at no cost. They have developed the logistics for that plan, and because it is a security measure, we don't typically release any details about that. But it would be used as a reunification site for the district should we need such a facility.
This would be better than, instead of taking your basketball game to the high school?
The conventional wisdom is that in the event that we would have an event of such a magnitude, that the high school may also be impacted or not easily accessible. I know the county college is not close by, but given the fact that they have developed this plan, we're not required to use it, but adopting this memorandum of agreement would give us the permission to use it should we need it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe never need to use it.
Okay, so move on to resolutions. I know our dear Karen is humble, but we should walk through. I would like to walk through these because I think it is important. So as board members, we're gonna each kind of break this up, so bear with us. Danielle, if you could do number 1 and the second bullet point, or first bullet point, I'm sorry.
Okay. Should I start? Nomination of Karen Nyquist for the MCSBA Irene LaFarve Excellence in
Very
Excellence in Boardsmanship Award. Resolved that the Long Hill Township Board of Education nominates Karen Nyquist for the MCSBA Irene LaFarve Excellence in Boardmanship Award based on her record of outstanding service to the Long Hill Township Board of Education, the Morris County School Boards Association, and the New Jersey School Boards Association. Ms. Nyquist's accomplishments include 24 years of service as a Long Hill Township Board of Ed member. Her tenure as a board member began in April of 1998, and her accomplishments as a board member include served on every standing committee of the board, with the exception of the Technology Committee. She has served as chair of the Curriculum, Buildings and Grounds, Policy, Governance, and Community Relations Committee.
Thank you. Anne, will you finish the page?
Through her service as chair of the Curriculum Committee, Ms. Nyquist was continuously focused on supporting the district's administration and implementing curriculum and programs to support and enhance student achievement. Served as the Superintendent Search Committee chair 3 times. The chair of the committee 3 times. Initiated the Board of Education's Governance Committee and served as its first chair. She helped facilitate professional development activities for the board members to help them understand the role of governance in successful board operations. She was part of the district team that presented a workshop on the importance of focusing on governance for boards of education. This presentation was made at the New Jersey School Boards Association Fall Workshop in 2022.
Tom, will you do the next 2 bullet points?
Please. Served on numerous ad hoc committees, including the Long Range Planning and Affirmative Action. Served as the board's delegate to the Morris County School Boards Association, having recently been elected to serve as a member of the MCSBA Board of Directors.
Alex, the next 2?
Served for many years as the board's delegate to the Morris County Educational Services Commission and has served as a member of the Negotiations Committee for the past 3 contracts. In addition, for the past 5 years, has served as vice president for the MCESC Board of Education. Served as the board's delegate to All Schools Council.
Katie, the next 2?
Attained Carol E. Larson Master Board Member status. Her community involvement and volunteerism are longstanding and include service on the Lounsbury Meadow Long Hill Township Senior Housing Complex for 13 years. Service as a member of the Long Hill Township Citizens Emergency Response Team, CERT, for 6 years. Member of the Rosary Society of St. Vincent de Paul Church, which includes engagement in outreach to the homeless and providing support for other community programs.
Ms. Nyquist's service on the board has long been characterized by her willingness to simply pitch in and help out wherever she can. This has included serving as a volunteer to support various PTO events such as the annual talent show and the faculty Harlem Wizards basketball games. Now therefore be it resolved, the Long Hill Township Board of Education does hereby express its appreciation to Karen Nyquist for her dedicated service leadership and her contributions to the education of the students in our district. Be it further resolved that the superintendent submit this resolution to the Morris County Committee for consideration of the nomination of Karen Nyquist for the Irene Lefebvre, that's a hard one, Excellence in Boardmanship Award. So, just have to laugh because the CERT, I didn't know you were part of CERT, but we had whatever emergency we had, and I'm in my bedroom, and I'm like, I think that's Karen in front of my house, in the middle of the road, like moving people around. So it makes you giggle a little bit, but
Powerhouse.
yeah,
Remember that.
exactly. So can I get, so for that one, somebody,
Motion to approve?
yeah, Ann, go ahead and move to.
I make a motion to
I
approve.
second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Case? Mrs. Case?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Okay, all right. And thank you, Dr. Rovtar, for shepherding this process. All right, so we'll go to the minutes. Number 2, Karen, will you move those in?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Okay. Roll call?
Mrs.
Oh,
Butler?
questions? I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Financials, Danielle, number 3 through 18.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, roll call?
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Special services numbers 19 through 22, Ann.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Resolution 21. These adjustments are obviously additional monies on present tuition,
That's why we bolded, so the bolded
but for
one.
the, oh, for a year
It's for the
ago.
prior
Yes,
year.
it's for the prior year.
Yeah.
Yep, and the newest item is the bold item, which is a new expense.
When you add this to the old tuition, does it equal the tuition we pay now, or is it
No,
not even?
it's
So
an
this-
add, it's for the prior year audited.
Oh, no, no,
for-
I understand that. But if we added this to the prior year, does that equal the tuition we're paying now, or is the tuition now even higher than that?
It's probably, our banking, it's higher.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, any other? Okay, roll call?
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Ms. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Personnel numbers 23 through 31, Tom.
So moved.
Second?
Any questions? Okay, roll call?
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Alex, moving curriculum number 32.
So moved.
And I would. This is the third time.
No, you just didn't.
I moved it?
You
moved
to- yes,
personnel.
Yeah, you
I gotta
moved, you
stop
did
personnel.
personnel.
23 to 31, yes.
Right?
I guess I was looking ahead. I
Okay,
apologize.
Alex, okay. So Alex
This one's on
moved,
me.
did I get a second?
I seconded it.
Thank you, okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes, you sure
Ms.
can.
Nyquist?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Policy numbers 33 through 38 and other number 39 through 42. Katie, please move in.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Questions?
Yes, Tom.
On number 33,
33.
policy number 1200, we have a new version. And in the new version compared to the old version, the new version doesn't speak about assistants and chaperones, where the old version did. I may be misreading that. And also on.
Wait, so you're saying you want it to say something, or you're just pointing out that it doesn't say something?
I'm pointing that it doesn't, and where would we talk about what the assistants and chaperones need to be
Oh,
held
alright.
to?
Okay.
And item B, it talks about people who have experience and training, determining the purposes of course of study and special services to be provided for students, evaluating the extent to which these purposes are being achieved by present practices. How we're outside people going to be doing our job, basically determining the purposes of course of study. Why would we?
What
Why would we?
policy are you referring to?
1200.
1200,
1200.
item B.
without having.
All I could say is you guys can note it, this is the first
First
reading,
reading.
and then bring it back to committee. Anything else?
I can, one's a grammatical, since it's first reading, I'll just send an email.
Okay.
And we were including 34, right? Never mind, I found out from Melissa today what the differences between the regulation and the policy are. so
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan?
Yes.
Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Case?
Yes. Okey dokey. All right, any items for discussion? Old business or unfinished business? Any new business? No, okay. Any comments from the public?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. At this point, the Board of Education welcomes comments from any member of the public on any topic. Please note that as per Board Policy Number 1120, a total of 15 minutes is allocated for public comments at any single board meeting. In order to provide residents the opportunity to comment, individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each at any particular board meeting. The board may extend these time limits at its discretion. Any questions should be directed to the board president, and depending upon the nature and complexity of the question, it may or may not be answered during the meeting by the administration. If so, the response would occur after this public portion of the meeting has concluded. Everyone has the freedom to speak, but please be advised that anything said in public may have legal ramifications, and there is no protection regarding statements made by the public. Please state your name and address before you begin.
I come tonight wearing two hats. You want the easy one first or the hard one first?
You're not being heard, Dennis.
I don't think that anyone can hear.
The
any of
microphone.
them?
All of them?
Oh,
Maybe if you hold it up closer.
no.
Just one?
I mean, it's really far away from me and you
I mean-
can hear it.
There's that other one.
Maybe. Oh, because it's next, wait, Dan, because it's next to the other mic, Dan.
What?
What if we move it?
Yeah.
Well, that would make that one work.
Yes.
Yeah, that's on.
It's on.
Everyone at home is like,
That's right.
Sorry.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Do we want to
Is,
turn that
is
one?
there a way to turn that one off, Dan?
We're on.
Probably why it was turned off.
Yeah. Dan, does this one work? I mean, I don't mean to be,
Dennis, would you like to sit down?
we have to get a new podium. Mike. Send that to them.
Testing.
Oh, there we go. Now, it may not reach all the way, but
You probably don't have to be super close to it. for it to pick up.
Hello?
Yep, it's working.
Yes.
Okay,
there we go. Move the podium.
thank you.
Oh, I got my prop.
So you want to wear your hard hat first, or do you want to wear your soft hat first?
Say again?
Do you want to wear the hard hat first, or the easy hat?
Yeah, well, all right, let me just pick one. I see in the website, buried under district, the cohort report dated, the cohort study dated April 2018. And if I understand, the cohort report is on a 5-year cycle, which means that next month you ought to be publishing a new cohort report. Is that in the works?
Preliminary, it will not be completed by next month.
So it will be more than 5 years since the last one was published.
Yes, that is correct.
Now, when you say preliminary, will that be officially turned over as a draft by the consultant?
Once we receive it, we would then distribute it to those other people in the community that could utilize those numbers.
When will that be?
I will find out and email you back later this week with an exact date.
I would, yeah. I have a desperate need to see it, even as a draft.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
And should I get in touch with you on Friday if you haven't gotten to me?
Well, you could call me tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2. Did you all read last week's Echoes front page?
Yes, yes.
You did. I, as chief organizer of the street fair, I invited the township committee to turn out in force at the street fair to say hello to the public in not behind locked doors, not behind plexiglass sheets, but just standing out in the sunshine under a tent, shaking hands with the public. And I said, and not only that, members of the township committee, bring the administration, because they're always 40 hours a week behind locked doors and plexiglass sheets. And bring the committees that the people deal with to sign up for trees or talk about rain barrels or recreational activities or whatever. But get out there in the fresh air and meet the public. And not only that, I will comp the table space so you don't even have to pay. All you have to do is show up with a grin and maybe some handouts. And it was all very nicely documented by Nicole in last week's paper. You can read more about it. I'm extending the same invitation to the Board of Ed. Come, talk to the people in town who are financing your activities. 80% of them have no idea what you do, and they don't much care. All they do is pay their taxes. And your bite out of my tax bill is the largest of any of the people who take bites out of my tax bill. So come, explain what you do. Explain why you are good for the community. Explain why, after 36 years of not having children in the school system, I should continue to pay for your whatever it is you do. It's free. If someone would please get in touch with me and tell me whether you want 3 tables or 4 tables or 5 tables, I will be glad to support anything you can deliver. Now, the last time the schools came to the street fair was about 6 or 7 years ago, when robotics was really a big deal. And I got the robotics department or the robotics club, I forget just who, to put on a little demonstration of what it is that they were taking to competitions. I don't know if that's still going on, but that's an example of what you might do. You probably don't want to bring the soccer team because they start demonstrating they're going to cause a nuisance on the street. But please, come out. It's April 23rd. That's the second Sunday after Easter. And bring as many people as you possibly can bring. And of course, bring Karen with her newly anointed tiara. Thank you very much.
Mr. Sandow?
Yes.
I'm Katie McLennan. I'm the chair of the Community Relations Committee, and I assure you we will be there. It's actually something we've been talking about in committee, and I can give you my word that I will be there, and there will be some representation of the school board.
Get in touch with me,
I will.
and if you need my email address, almost everybody should have it.
I'm good with the Google, so I'll find it.
Ask around. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Chairman
you.
Sandow. Chairman Sandow. Dennis. Chairman Sandow, do you have anything to tell us from the planning board?
Yeah, the planning board is looking for the cohort study.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? I'm Lauren Franklin. I'm president of Long Hill Education Association. I'm here tonight to discuss the school calendar for next year. The teachers would like to have the 3 half-days in November reinstated into the calendar. We've had these 3 half-days for over 40 years. I can tell you that because I was a student here in the 80s, and we had those days. It worked. Last year was the first year in our history that we chose a different conference schedule, and it didn't work. And I'm going to provide a few examples tonight as to why it didn't work. We want the conferences to be offered in person, not via Zoom. When the students are in the school, the students are there. We can't have conferences, so we had to offer it via Zoom the way we did it this year. It didn't work. Parents need the opportunity to come in to see the classroom. They get excited that their parents are coming in, see the desks, read the room, look at the walls, see what your child's work looks like. Holding up work to a Zoom screen is not the same. All the teachers that work with each child should be present at the meeting at these conferences also. If you're a parent of a special education student, you want all the players at the table, not just one teacher that works with your child. It should be a combination, and that's the whole idea of what conferences are supposed to be. We come together as a team and talk and meet with the parents during the first marking period. If you're a parent, you want that. We all do. Space was an issue. We have no space at these places, at these buildings. If the students are in the classroom, we can't use them to do conferences, so where do we go? We had people sitting on the floor in the principal's office. The makeshift office that is for the gym teacher that is a closet is where people were doing conferences. 16 Zoom conferences in a closet. These are not appropriate work conditions for teachers. So this is the reason we need the space in the buildings to have the conferences there. It's worked for years. We tried something new, it didn't work. I don't have any happy teachers with the way it was this year. The internet and Zoom issues. We all know that happens. So imagine that. When you're face-to-face, you don't have that issue. We've also been able to get conferences, the whole district, in a 3-day period. So this year, because of the difference in schedules and needing coverage, which substitutes are a problem as it is, it was not able to get completed before the first marking period. At Central, they started November 3rd, and they went to December 17th. The marking period ended December 9th. We're supposed to have the conferences finished. We were not able to do our job effectively. The people weren't there at the conference that we wanted, and it didn't work. So I cannot express this enough on behalf of all the teachers. So we would like just to plan ahead, put them back in the schedule in November, right at the middle toward the end of the first marking period, so we can conference with the parents the way we have in the past. And it has worked, for years. If it wasn't broken, why should we have fixed it? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. No, we will be back here next week, same time. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
I don't know.
That's exciting.
Okay.
I think I've done.
Renee?
You got it.
Done not say your
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, it's all right. I just-